Again, I want to thank everybody for being here today. Today's meeting is about Tara. It's about this family that you heard speak here just a moment ago. We will take a few questions, but again, please understand that our question and our answers are going to be very limited due to the investigative and judicial process, so please be respectful of that.
What led to the break in the case?
Investigative work by the cold case unit and Athens.
Can you single out any bit of forensic evidence or something that kind of?
Not at this time. The purpose of the cold case unit and working with these investigators from Athens, Clarke County and the other investigators in this room is to take a cold case, to look over it, to reinvestigate it, to review it, and see if there is information in there of a probative nature that we can go back and re-interview, whether it be interviews, forensic evidence, whatever the case may be, a successful conclusion like we had today.
Did Tara know Mr. Faust?
There's no connection that we have found in our investigation that indicates that.
Now we know Faust, looking at his arrest history, he had been in and out of the jail several times. He was even arrested less than a month after Tara was killed. How often that he was in and out of jail, how is he not tied to her case too?
I'm not familiar with his criminal history, the details that you're referring to. And again, I will go back and repeat what I said earlier, that question. We found no connection in the investigation.
You talked about there some forensic evidence, including DNA. Can you give us any insight into how that played a role here? And was that in combination with fresh eyes coming onto the case?
Everything that we did in that investigation involved fresh eyes, obviously, with the cold case unit, with the investigators involved in this. And what I will say as far as the details there that got us here today is everything was reviewed, whether it be interviews, forensic evidence, whatever the case may be. And then I will stop at that for now, if you don't mind.
Was it more difficult because the person involved in this case as well?
Difficult because it was 23 years old.
Was the evidence that you looked at, was it a new examination of existing evidence, or were you able to come up with, did you examine additional DNA and additional biological evidence to come to the conclusion you did?
Everything, whether it was testimonial or physical evidence, was reviewed and looked back into, is the best way for me to explain that.
So there was no new physical evidence, for example?
It was a review of everything that we had in the investigation.
DA Gonzalez, is it going to be difficulty to prosecute a case that's 23 years old and just got a suspect today, this last week? It's going to be difficult to prosecute that case.
Every case has its challenges, right? We work with our law enforcement to build that case up, and so it is always more of a challenge when it's an older case, but we do believe that we're going to be able to do what needs to be done in this case to get justice.
If I could ask the chief to talk a little bit more about the feelings that you have coming full circle this way, having been, I believe you said, on the scene at the time.
Sure. I think for a lot of law enforcement officers throughout the years, it's been greatly affected by this case. The Baker family is a wonderful family. And again, that night being on that scene and being there till 2:30 in the morning as investigators processed everything. And then afterwards, you live with those cases. And so for many nights, I've prayed for that family and thought about them. And then seeing billboards of terror up in the Athens community. And then becoming an investigator and actually working on this case at a certain point, it affects you because you really would like to see justice for that family and for Tara. And so to see it come full circle, it's just a blessing. So I'm happy for the family.
Does the GBI expect to have more press conferences like this now that the bill is signed into law last year and the cold case unit is looking more and more into cases that have gone cold?
We're solving more cases.
With regard to your analysis of the biological and DNA evidence, did the technology exist 23 years ago that you used this time to analyze the physical evidence? In other words, could you have used existing technology back then the way you used it now to get the conclusion?
I'll answer it this way, and I've kind of already answered it. The best way I know how at this point in time is this case, like many others out there, required a review of fresh eyes to reevaluate everything in the investigation, whether it be interviews or evidence. And new technology plays into that. That we're working in our crime labs across the state and utilizing that every way that we can to help solve these cases. And I'll say too, before we stop, is I apologize if I'm not answering the questions the way the importance and the magnitude of this investigation. And there's a lot of work left to be done in this by all agencies involved. And we again appreciate you being here. I just ask for your understanding in that, and please understand as we move forward with this. So thank you.